Cliff Richard was never meant to blend in. Born Harry Roger Webb on October 14, 1940, in a British hospital in Lucknow, India, he arrived in a world already bursting with chaos. World War II was raging, and the British Empire was losing its grip on India. In 1946, violent riots and the threat of independence forced the Webb family to flee. Their escape wasn't luxurious. They were packed onto a slow ship called the SS Ranchi, leaving behind their life in India for a country recovering from war. England wasn't the land of dreams, it was cold, grey, and filled with food rations. The family settled in a modest home in Surrey, and young Harry quickly understood that survival meant adapting. That early feeling of displacement never left him, and it quietly fueled the desire to stand out, to build something of his own, and to never be forgotten. The shift from Harry Webb to Cliff Richard didn't happen overnight. It was carefully shaped by a manager who believed Harry had something special. The name, Cliff, gave him strength. It sounded tough, like a rock. Richard was a nod to the wild American rock star Little Richard. It was more than a name change. It was a rebirth. Cliff Richard became a new identity, one that wasn't limited by background, accent, or expectations. By 1958, something big was about to happen. At just 18 years old, Cliff released a song that would shake British music to its core. Move It wasn't polished or safe. It was loud, bold, and exactly what the youth wanted. The song reached number 2 on the UK charts, and just like that, Cliff wasn't a boy from India anymore. He was Britain's first real rock star. He didn't copy American rock. He made it his own. His success gave confidence to artists who came after him, including the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Soon, Cliff Hysteria swept across the UK. Girls screamed until they lost their voices. Boys rolled their eyes and secretly tried to imitate him. His concerts were a frenzy. Cliff had become more than a singer. He was a cultural phenomenon. The media, record labels, and fans couldn't get enough. His momentum continued with songs like Living Doll, which became his first #1 hit. Strangely, he didn't even like the song at first. But once it was reworked into a slow, heartfelt ballad, it became a massive success, selling over 770,000 copies. Travelin' Light followed, and the numbers kept climbing. Cliff was the first British artist to sell 1 million records with 2 consecutive singles. His music crossed borders, but his image began to evolve beyond the stage. Cliff's early movie roles weren't safe, either. In Serious Charge, he played a teenager caught in a web of false accusations and sensitive themes. It shocked audiences and proved he wasn't afraid to take risks. In Espresso Bongo, he played a rising pop star in a satire that poked fun at the very industry he was dominating. Cliff wasn't just chasing fame, he was shaping it. By 1963, Summer Holiday hit theaters, and Cliff was everywhere. The film's catchy songs and sunny scenes made it a nationwide event. The soundtrack topped the charts for 14 weeks, with multiple #1 hits. Over 3,000 fans showed up for the premiere. It was clear that Cliff was no passing trend. He was a national treasure. But then came the Beatles. As their popularity skyrocketed, many believed Cliff's days were numbered. Instead, he surprised everyone. In 1964, while Beatlemania ruled the world, Cliff still managed to have 6 top 10 hits, beating the Beatles by 1. He didn't need to reinvent himself to keep up. He just needed to be himself. Even John Lennon and Paul McCartney gave him credit for opening doors in British pop music. In 1965, Cliff hit another high point. He was voted the world's top male singer in a global poll, beating out names like Elvis, Lennon, and McCartney. He wasn't just riding a wave. He was building a legacy. Unlike others who shifted with every trend, Cliff stayed consistent. His songs were heartfelt, clean, and relatable. He wasn't chasing headlines. He was winning hearts. Then, something happened that nobody saw coming. In June 1966, during an event with Billy Graham, Cliff made a public declaration of faith. This wasn't whispered behind closed doors. It was broadcast for everyone to hear. Fans were shocked. Was he leaving music? Would he become a preacher? Industry insiders doubted his career could survive this change. But Cliff stayed true to himself and refused to walk away from the stage. Instead, he blended his music with his beliefs. He didn't preach, but he also didn't hide. He showed that fame and faith could exist together. This gave him a new confidence and helped him stand out in a changing industry. While others burned out or gave in to pressure, Cliff stood firm. By the mid-70s, his career faced a dip. In 1975, he had no charting songs for the first time in years. But he wasn't finished. In 1976, Devil Woman shocked critics and fans. It was darker, more intense, and completely different from anything he'd done. It sold over 2 million copies and reached the top 10 in the US. It also caught the attention of major rock artists like Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, and Elton John. Cliff had changed once again. No longer just the clean-cut teen idol, but a serious rock artist. His transformation continued into the 1980s. Inspired by Michael Jackson's Thriller, Cliff released Always Guaranteed in 1987. It was slick, modern, and fresh. The album sold over 1.3 million copies and gave him 4 top 40 hits. Decades into his career, Cliff was competing with artists half his age and holding his own. In 1988, he released Mistletoe and Wine, a gentle holiday song filled with faith and warmth. It became the biggest UK single of the year and turned into a Christmas classic. Its success proved that Cliff could still touch people with simplicity and heart. The following year, Cliff reached an unbelievable milestone, his 100th single. To celebrate, he invited 2,000 fans to the London Palladium, gave them a sneak peek at unreleased songs, and let them pick the next single. The Best of Me climbed to number 2 in the charts, reminding everyone that Cliff's connection with his fans was real and powerful. Later that year, he headlined Wembley Stadium in a massive concert called The Event. The first half honored the early days of British rock. The second half was all about Cliff's recent success. It wasn't just nostalgia, it was proof that he still had it. The performance was filmed and released, reaching millions more. That same year, he received an award for outstanding contribution to music. He had now achieved #1 hits in 5 straight decades. No other UK artist could say that. In 1990, Cliff joined a massive charity concert at Knebworth Park, sharing the stage with legends like Paul McCartney, Elton John, and Pink Floyd. Despite pouring rain, fans stayed, cheered, and sang along. Cliff stood tall among the greats. In December, his song Saviour's Day became yet another #1 hit. Its video, filmed on a sunny day with people pretending it was winter, gave it a unique charm. Cliff's momentum continued with a greatest hits album, Private Collection 1979 to 1988. It sold over 1.2 million copies and became the biggest album of his career. Songs like We Don't Talk Anymore sold nearly 5 million copies worldwide. Cliff wasn't just staying relevant, he was dominating. Then came 1999 and a song called Millennium Prayer. The music industry wasn't kind this time. Major radio stations refused to play it. Some said it lacked appeal. Others hinted that Cliff was simply too old. His fan club fought back, accusing the industry of age discrimination. Still, without major promotion or radio support, the song rose to #1 and stayed there for 3 weeks. It also reached #2 in Australia and New Zealand and earned platinum certifications across Europe. It raised money for charity and reminded everyone that Cliff didn't need approval to make an impact. While his public image was polished, Cliff's private life was filled with heartbreak. He fell in love with a woman he cherished for 50 years, but she married someone else, his best friend. Eventually, she passed away in his arms. Cliff never married, never had children, and instead poured his emotions into his music. But that pain never left him. In 2014, Cliff's world was turned upside down. Police raided his home over false allegations, tipped off by a secret deal with the BBC. Though the claims were unfounded, the damage was lasting. He lost weight, suffered from shingles, and couldn't sleep. His safe space now felt like a prison. The man who once filled stadiums now feared walking outside. But Cliff Richard is more than fame or numbers. He's a symbol of resilience. From a displaced child arriving in post-war England to a chart-topping legend who shaped British music, Cliff kept pushing forward. He didn't rely on trends or controversy. He relied on honesty, belief, and a never-ending will to grow. His legacy isn't just in hits or awards, it's in the fact that he stayed true to himself. He showed the world that reinvention doesn't mean losing your identity, that you can fall and still rise. That faith doesn't have to hide in the shadows. Cliff Richard is proof that music, when made from the heart, can stand the test of time. If you were inspired by this story, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for more powerful stories, and let us know your favorite Cliff Richard moment in the comments.